David talked about innovations and investments that we've made, and tonight I'm going to talk about two big innovations and investments that we've made in our fire safety business. The first one is we launched a new range of ground up developed smoke, heat, carbon monoxide sensors, and I'll talk a little bit about them. And then also roughly a year ago, we launched a integrated voice alarm product, and I'll talk about that. So our new range of smoke detectors is called the DTECT range, DTECT sensors. I'll talk about what DTECT stands for, but before I do, let me give a little bit of background in terms of where they came from. So historically, we were purchasing smoke detectors from another provider, and we decided that it was important as a fire safety company that we develop our own sensors. So what we did is we invested, as David talked about, over a 3 to 4 year period where we invested in developing our own set of smoke detectors. And the way we did it was not to just ask people that don't know anything about smoke detection to develop sensors. Instead, we found a team who has a long, rich history of developing smoke detectors in the commercial fire alarm market, and we hired them to work for Potter. So we hired them 3.5 years ago. They developed from the ground up a range of smoke sensors and heat and carbon monoxide and all of the accessories that go with it. We developed that in-house. So in addition to the development work, especially when it comes to something as important as smoke detectors, it's not just about can you get it to detect smoke, it's making sure that not only does it detect smoke, but it detects smoke accurately. And in doing that, you have to go through a very rigorous test program to make sure that the products will not only meet agency requirements like ULFM, but then also the good part about us having a team that has been in the market for 25 years, they know and understand all of the things that can go right and all of the things that can go wrong with the smoke detector. So we went through a very rigorous test program and process in addition to the agency requirements. So that team's legacy of design fed into all of the testing that we did. We also then, most importantly, combined that expertise with our system panel design engineers to develop a lot of features and benefits that relate to interoperability between the detectors and the system and the panel to deliver that rich experience, not only for you as our customers and partners, but then also, most importantly, making for a very safe environment, which, as we talked about, our primary mission is to save lives. And as I mentioned, the products were launched in September of 2022. And at this point, we have tens of thousands already out into the marketplace, installed and operating, and customer feedback has been very positive. This is the range. So at the top are the installation bases. The first two on the left are sounder bases. So one is a regular sounder. The other is a US phenomenon, which is called a low frequency sounder base, which is used in commercial sleeping spaces to wake up people while they're sleeping. And then the regular mounting base. And then also we have a relay base and we have an isolator base. And then in terms of detectors, we have a carbon monoxide detector, we have a standard optical photoelectric detector, we have a photo heat or photothermal detector, we have a heat only, we have a photo carbon monoxide detector as well. And that whole range is what we launched last year. So that's 14 models that launched. So it wasn't just, hey, launch one device, launch another device. Instead, we wanted to launch all of the devices all at once so that they can be used together and offer all of the great design features that we built into the product. They are compliant with the new UL 268. So UL is the standard that we follow in the United States as well as around the world. So I know in this market, there is an appreciation for ULFM. The products today are listed to UL. The interesting thing about 268, which is the standard, is that these are designed to meet the requirements of what's called 7th edition. So 7th edition, just a little bit of history and interest. 7th edition is a new standard that was developed by UL to ensure that there were no false alarms in one condition, and then also that it was able to go into alarm in a different condition. So the first condition, which is a nuisance, is that cooking causes false alarms with smoke detectors. So UL, this is a true story. This sounds comical. It's not, it's true. They figured out that the worst nuisance condition is caused by grilling hamburgers on a grill. That is not, I know that's funny, but that is true. And so in order to pass that test, that means that we as a detector have to be able to detect smoke, but then also make sure that when that type of fire happens or that kind of smoke, we can distinguish it from a real fire and not go into alarm. And the actual test that takes place at UL is they actually burn hamburgers in the test room. So that is a true story. You cannot go into false alarm, and we passed. The other, which is flaming and foaming polyurethane, was a series of tests that were done in Indiana. It's called the Dunes. That's why it's called that. But in Indiana, in the United States, they did a series of tests to understand fire burning in commercial environments. And a long time ago, the first time they did the study, it was called Dunes 1, and they determined the amount of time that a smoke detector had before what's called flashover, when a fire becomes really dire. And back then in Dunes 1, there was a significant amount of time because of the materials that were used in carpet and in foam furniture that the smoke detector could respond for a very long period of time. In Dunes 2, which was the most recent one that caused this change to the standard, the fire flashover happened within something like a minute. So we had to redesign our smoke detector so that they detected this fire really fast and signaled an alarm condition. So those are the two conditions. That actually code standard goes into effect in June of 2024. We decided to design to that tougher standard long before that. So while these products were launched in September of 2022, they meet the code requirement for June of 2024. A few other things that are advantages with our design. So we talk about, and it's what the D stands for in DTECT, is dynamic. So we use a technology that we call dynamic sampling. And what that means is that as you're detecting smoke, you have to detect a smoke pattern 3 times in a row. And the reason that matters is smoke as a phenomenon behaves actually in a very predictable way. And when it does, you can measure that. And so we see 3 successive detection of steadily growing phenomenon. dust, on the other hand, or some other nuisance condition does not behave in that way. So by sampling over a period of time, and we're doing this many times in many milliseconds, we're detecting that smoke pattern over and over and over again. And that's one way that we are able to distinguish a real smoke condition from a false alarm so that we do not go into false alarm. We also introduced, and we have a patent pending on the optics that go with that detector. And then lastly, we have some unique panel interoperability capabilities. And the most significant one is the detector date of manufacture. So when we make the product, we embed electronically the date of manufacture. And the reason we do that is so that when you use a Potter fire alarm panel, you can look at and see the date of manufacture for the product. And the reason that matters is if we determine that we want to introduce a new smoke detection algorithm for the detector, and we need to find detectors that were made of a certain date. The old way was you had to go get on a ladder, take it down from the ceiling, read it, know whether it's that date. Now you can do that electronically at our panel. And then if our panel is connected to the internet, you can do it remotely. So that is a key feature to enable your lives in terms of finding out the vintage or date of manufacture of a product. Just a couple of things to finish up just for the sake of time. So one is we do have embedded in the device a magnetic test switch. The reason we do that is in a lot of cases as you're doing the install, if you want to check and make sure that the signal is reaching the panel and that communication is working, you can do a quick magnet test. That is not a replacement for smoke entry testing. That is not a replacement for normal maintenance and testing. It is just a feature that we enabled for you all to use and take advantage of to make sure that the system is working. And then we have a 10-year life on carbon monoxide. And then lastly, just finishing up, one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is to make sure that our products are backwards compatible. So when we developed the PAD 300 range or DTECT series, these are fully backwards compatible. So if there's a system that has a PAD 100 or PAD 200 installed, these products are a direct replacement for them and will work the exact same way. You also can mix and match on the same loop, this PAD 300, PAD 100, PAD 200 all together. So that was quite a big investment to make sure that these all work. And then if there are specifications written or calculations on the old products, they are the exact same technical specifications, so no new analysis or no new calculations are required. All right. Moving on to the next product. So we introduced, 1 year ago, we introduced an integrated voice alarm product, which is the best of our fire alarm capabilities, so the IPA series, IPA 4000, and then we added to that an integrated voice product. So we have it on the stand at the exhibition, and that is a ground up design from scratch. So we talked about innovation, we talked about investment. This is another case where we introduced a whole range of products to the world. The design is a distributed design, meaning that there's the IPA 4000V, which is the panel, and then we have distributed amplifiers spread throughout the installation. Up to 31 amplifiers can be installed on this one system. Each amplifier can control up to 8 circuits. So that's a lot of loops for speakers. I'll skip that. The other thing that we did, which we pride ourselves on, is we invested a lot in the software. So the programming of the panel and the programming of the voice part of it, works the exact same way as our programming software for our everyday panels. So if companies are trained and know how to use our existing software, adding the capability to do integrated voice is very easy because it's the exact same concepts, exact same software. The other thing that we added into the software is a text-to-speech engine. So if you want to enter in a message, you can type it in, record it, and save it, and publish it to the panel, and then that's your message. And then here's a screen capture of the software, and you can see there's multiple inputs. So it's we do have some predefined messages already that come with the panel. There's also the opportunity for you to bring in your own messages that have been recorded. In a lot of cases, if it's a retrofit installation, companies like to bring in the messages that used to be in the old system into the new system so that you do not have to retrain all of the occupants. That can be carted over to this product as well. And then, as I talked about, the text-to-speech engine is resident inside as well. We are coming out with a next product to go with this, which is an integrated network paging. So this is how, when we tie together multiple systems and we want to do live paging across an entire network, we've designed that into our networking capability so that if we want to do live messaging across multiple buildings, that is now possible. And we've added that capability. That is coming out in the next couple of months. Just finishing up a couple of reference sites. These are reference sites admittedly from the US. The first one is we have a lot of multifamily residential facilities in the US, especially in the South and Southwest. And this, in this case, is 4 buildings, multifamily. In this building, we have multiple dual channel amplifiers that are operating. We also have a firefighter's telephone, which I know is an important product for this part of the world. We do have firefighter's telephone. It's actually being deployed in this application. And it's working very well. And they also are excited about the upgrade to the live paging because they want to go across all buildings at once. And then the other one, just finishing up our last reference site, is a commercial building. It's a commercial office building. It's 13 stories. I know that's not a large building in comparison to Dubai, but it's 13 stories. So, but in that case, it is a head-end panel, the IPA 4000V. Multiple, in this case, single channel amplifiers, 7 loops of detectors, and then 12 notification and speaker loops across the network. So those are the 2 reference sites that we have. That concludes my presentation. So thank you all for your attention.